Have you ever wondered how the work of one scientist radically changed the course of human history and geopolitics as we know it? Well, that's exactly what J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, accomplished. Oppenheimer's creation of the nuclear bomb altered global politics more than nearly any other event in the 20th century. The unleashing of atomic weapons shifted power dynamics, catalyzed the Cold War, and still impacts how nations interact today. J. Robert Oppenheimer was a brilliant American theoretical physicist in the 1930s and 40s. He taught at UC Berkeley and Caltech, making critical contributions to quantum mechanics and nuclear physics. When World War II erupted, Oppenheimer was enlisted into the Manhattan Project, which aimed to develop atomic weapons before Nazi Germany could. He was appointed director of the Los Alamos Laboratory in New Mexico, where thousands of scientists and engineers worked in secret to design and build the first nuclear bombs. This was one of the largest research programs ever undertaken, showing just how intent the US was on obtaining atomic capabilities. Oppenheimer brilliantly led the effort, solving countless technical hurdles to achieve the first nuclear chain reaction and bomb detonation on July 16, 1945 at the Trinity Test Site in New Mexico. His actions birthed the nuclear age, with all its peril and promise. Life magazine famously called the scientists of Los Alamos, the new frontiersmen of a strange new world, led into the unknown by Oppenheimer just as pioneers had conquered the American West. Their work shook the world perhaps more than any other scientific feat in history. Let's look at how the unleashing of atomic weapons fundamentally changed geopolitics. Firstly, it vaulted the United States to the status of global superpower in the mid-20th century. The US was the first and only country possessing the atomic bomb when it was dropped on Japan in August 1945, leading to their quick surrender and the end of WWII. This firmly established America as the dominant world power. Oppenheimer's work enabled the US to dictate terms to its allies and enemies from a position of supreme military strength and authority. The bomb reshaped power dynamics between nations overnight. Secondly, it kicked off an arms race and power struggle with the Soviet Union that defined the Cold War era. In 1949, the Soviets detonated their own nuclear weapon after intense espionage efforts to steal bomb secrets from the US. This leveled the playing field and escalated tensions and proxy battles between the two superpowers. Oppenheimer's invention of doomsday weapons forced bitter rivals to aim them at each other like a modern-day Mexican standoff, with fingers always hovering over the launch buttons. The threat of instant atomic annihilation loomed over all geopolitics during this tense period. Thirdly, it spurred the establishment of nuclear deterrence and views of atomic weapons as political leverage rather than just military tools. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction prevented direct war between nuclear-armed nations, but made proxies like Korea and Vietnam battlegrounds instead. Leaders like Kennedy and Khrushchev turned Oppenheimer's fearsome creation into a bargaining chip they could wield during crises like the Cuban Missile Crisis. Nuclear capability made countries politically relevant on the world stage. Proliferation pressures arose from this. Fourthly, it triggered the creation of an intricate framework of nuclear regulations, treaties and institutions that still dominate geopolitics today. Things like the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, International Atomic Energy Agency, and Strategic Arms Limitations talks were results of Oppenheimer's work. These sought to constrain the threat posed by nuclear technology and monitor who could access it. Oppenheimer enabled the forming of a complex nuclear order that countries are still trying to shape and upend to this day. Finally, it inaugurated the era of WMDs and fears of nuclear terrorism that color relations between countries in the 21st century. Rogue states and terrorists still covet Oppenheimer's creation as the ultimate power equalizer against superior foes. Witness North Korea's nuclear antics, for instance. By unlocking the fundamental forces of the universe, Oppenheimer gave humanity both supreme power along with supreme responsibilities not just for waging war, but for preserving peace. No other inventor shaped modern geopolitics so profoundly. Now, Oppenheimer was a conflicted figure. He loved pure physics research, but was compelled by duty to apply it to weapons during World War II. After 1945, he advocated controlling the terrible genie he had unleashed from the bottle. He famously told President Truman after the war, "Mr. President, I have blood on my hands." Oppenheimer spent the rest of his career grappling with the moral dilemmas of nuclear technology and trying to convince nations to disarm. So while Oppenheimer is the father of the bomb, he also devoted himself to non-proliferation and arms control later in life. He came full circle from architect of our nuclear nightmares to someone who warned future generations to put the nuclear genie back in its bottle. His life is a parable of scientific responsibility. In the end, I think J. Robert Oppenheimer embodied the awe-inspiring but also frightening reality that the discoveries of science can be applied to both help and harm humanity. Unlocking the basic forces of the universe gave us both energy and weapons. Oppenheimer's work shows how a single individual with knowledge and resources can change the fate of the world with the inventions they introduce. His atomic bomb altered not just war, but politics itself. We owe him for unlocking nature's power, but also hold him responsible for how leaders since have wielded that power over life and death. His legacy is one of how even well-meaning scientists can lose control of how their discoveries get used. His life is a cautionary tale of knowledge coming with great responsibility. J. Robert Oppenheimer changed the arc of human history through his invention of the atomic bomb. Thanks for watching.